Hey guys, and welcome to the latest in the SleepyTalk podcast. This week, I'm joined by the awesome duo of Steve and PT64 James.
How are we doing, guys?
Hi.
So, James Rodriguez is back.
First I'm hearing of this name, but I'm happy to be here as always.
Oh, James. So, he enjoyed the last one that much that he's come back for some more grilling. This week we're going to be talking a little bit about psychopathy or psychopaths or psychos.
Ooh.
So I hope you've all been doing your little bits of research, guys. It's going to be a good one. So we'll start off with me for once. With me. So I was doing quite a bit of research quite a few years ago, actually, when I was doing this in university. So looking into psychopaths and things, I had to re-jog my memory because I've forgotten everything to do with any sort of uni stuff. So
I remember what happens for people, doesn't it?
Yeah, you spend all these years learning something and then you never use it again.
Gets replaced by something else.
Exactly. But I do remember there was one guy, and he was Dr. James Fallon. Now, it's quite a funny story, to be fair. But James Fallon is a neuroscientist, and he was scanning the brains of psychopaths and brainwaves and things like that, relating them to normal people. And long story short, and I'll put a picture up on screen now, the psychopathic sort of tendencies in people tends to show in their brain. It's towards the prefrontal cortex, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's an actual fingerprint in the brain which shows people who are psychopaths. So calling someone a psycho, generally speaking, isn't correct, but you can call someone a psychopath because they might be one. And it turns out James decided to scan his own brain because he found out that some historical people within his family actually were psychopaths. They killed a lot of people, got beheaded and killed and stuff like that. And it was on his mother's side, and he knows that the gene for it, which is called the warrior gene, is passed down from mother to son. So he scanned his own brain, and turns out he's a psychopath.
Brilliant.
Nice.
You know, and he was trying to work out why he hadn't sort of followed the same route as many of his ancestors. And the only conclusion he could come up with was that he was showered with love as a kid and kind of learnt what was right and wrong, and that was it. He says he hates it as a scientist to say that love conquered it, but he has no other explanation as to why he's not some sort of serial killer or sort of bad person. But
yeah.
that doesn't mean to say that everyone who is a psychopath will go out and become a serial killer. It's just that I think all serial killers are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Or sociopaths.
Yeah.
There isn't a massive difference between psychopaths and sociopaths. But there are key elements and key differences. So a psychopath doesn't really have empathy. They imitate empathy as they're growing up. So they're more like predators that imitate their prey to get them in close and things like that. So they can imitate empathy, but they don't understand it. They don't get it because they never feel it. They don't feel bad for someone for like falling in the street. But then again, neither do I. I kind of just laugh. But you know what I mean.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah. You can watch some sad things and they make you sad, but like a psychopath, it'd be boring to them. They wouldn't get it. But they can imitate it, and they are perfect imitators.
Yeah.
Yep.
They know when the right time is to pat you on the back and act like they know what. Yeah.
And it's not surprising to know that a lot of people who are in higher up positions in companies or governments or army and things like that are actually psychopaths. Statistically, a lot of them are. And that's just because of how methodical they are. They will throw anyone under the bus without remorse to get what they want. because they don't feel any empathy towards them. It's the same with the killings as well. When these psychopaths do end up, if they end up going on a killing spree, it takes a while for it to catch up with them, and that's because they are very, very smart. They're not erratic and impulsive like sociopaths are. They are very methodical in their thinking. They will go through everything over and over and over again, make sure that nothing can be traced back to them, blah, blah, blah. And I think that'll bring us on to yours, James, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean...
take it away.
Of course, with the recent passing of Mr. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, and let me double check now. I mean, he was 74, I believe, upon dying. Yeah, 74 years old. And it turns out he did actually die of COVID. Like a byproduct of, in a post-mortem on the 17th of November. He died on the 13th of November. And on the 17th, they found that his death was caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is a viral respiratory illness caused by coronavirus. And supposedly he had been in and out of hospital, not being well. And when he had the respiratory illness, when he basically had COVID and they were like, oh, we're going to treat you for it, he refused all treatment and he was just like, no, he pretty much gave up. He was like, I'm done ski. I'm calling it. And he refused all treatment and died. So, as I'm sure for many, 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 many people, it was a good day. And funny that it was the 13th as well, I found. You know what I mean? Just the number 13 and whatnot. Strange that. I know it's just one of those daft things. It's a superstitious thing, isn't it? The number 13. But it's funny that of all the days he should die, it would be on that day.
How many people did he kill? Did you know?
Oh, many. I can tell you. Murders. In total, from I believe what he was charged for, it was 13.
Yeah, 13 spanning over 5 years.
Yeah. Including attacks, it was 23.
So he killed 13 people.
13 people that were officially, announced, and it was confirmed 100%, led back to him. He killed these people.
And he died on the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very superstitious.
Yeah. Seriously, yeah. Honestly. 13 people on the 13th. Crazy. Yeah, if only there were another 3. If only they'd died a year sooner, and that would have been the triple threat. But yeah, I'm sure that it was one of those cases where they were adamant that it was way more than that. That it was so many more than that, into the 20s at least, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Much like with others like, Ted Bundy and other big serial killers like that, it was numerous people.
I don't think you'd ever know, because wasn't it prostitutes he killed predominantly?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. For the most part.
He was a fanatic of Jack, wasn't he?
I mean, I think it was, he got his name because of the similar, the whole preying on women.
Yeah.
As obviously Jack the Ripper did. It was that kind of, because it was so similar in that regard. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think surely somebody with that predisposition to enjoy killing has got to see previous, romanticized serial killers as inspiration to some point, surely.
See, this is the thing that I'm kind of not confused about, but is it enjoyable for them to kill? Do they get enjoyment out of it, or is
I think it really does depend on the person. That is something that I think yes and no. It very much depends on the killer, the nature of how and why they kill, because you've got to remember that there's so many serial killers that kill through a sexual desire.
Mm-hmm.
It has to push beyond those boundaries, so it becomes that sexual desire there, and when that's the case, I believe that it is enjoyment. because they feel that they have to do that to get the enjoyment back out of it. Whereas certain killers who, for instance, Peter Sutcliffe, Yorkshire Ripper, he could be a perfect example of not doing, because I think that was more of a punishment thing. But then I suppose...
I've just read about Peter that he thought he was on a mission from God.
Yeah.
Well, he said that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he said, isn't it, in court? But I think I think it was a mission of his own, to be quite honest. You know, his own form of divine retribution, if you will. I think, again, a lot of people with power, they get enjoyment from power, you know, hence the whole power trip. So I think for a big part, whether even they know it or not, I think on a subconscious level, especially with what you know, going into the whole psychosis and, you know, not having those certain feelings, I think there is definitely a drive to feel something at least out of it.
Well, this is why, sorry, for me anyway, from what you've said, it's very difficult to determine whether someone is a psychopath or a sociopath in that. So, like, was he a psychopath or was he a sociopath? Because at certain points he was a little bit impulsive, like he had a vendetta against certain people rather than just trying to get what he wants. So I know psychopath doesn't have a conscience, they don't have that little voice telling them that something's wrong, whereas a sociopath does, but it's weak. So they know it's wrong and they might feel some guilt or remorse, but that won't stop them doing whatever.
He was definitely more erratic, yeah. I mean, especially when on the odd occasion where he was about to be caught, for instance.
Yeah.
So, like you say, psychopaths 9 times out of 10 don't really care too much. Like, they don't want to get caught because they know the implications. No one wants to go to prison. But they care far less, whereas, and you know, I think the reaction to nearly getting caught was definitely like, you know, shock and fear. Yeah. Sorry, Steve, go on, you were going to say something.
No, it would just be... obviously, the main difference between a psychopath and sociopath is... obviously, psychopaths pretend to care, they can have relationships and stuff like that, but am I right in saying sociopaths don't? So they can't hold like a relationship with family, friends, there's no emotional contact there. But psychopaths... That's
incorrect.
Okay. That's what I believe. Sorry.
No. So they do have a conscience and empathy. It's just a lot weaker than what ours would be.
I understand that bit. So they have that bit, but it's more... whereas a psychopath can have a relationship or pretend to have a relationship with a family member or getting married, that sort of stuff. Am I right in saying a sociopath can't do that? So they find that a lot harder.
I think it depends on the actual sociopath, really. I get what you mean. They are more erratic and a little bit more emotional in things. Nothing is methodical with a sociopath. They might be smart and methodical, but I mean, generally speaking, they aren't as sort of calculated in things. So they're quick to sort of do something out of an emotion rather than being an emotionless being that does things calculated.
I've always sort of been under the impression, really, that psychopaths don't need people, sociopaths do. Like, whether it be for, you know, their own destructive gains or purposes or not, I've always been under that impression that, like we say, psychopaths don't need people. They don't. 9 times out of 10, they are loners. They are people who live alone. They keep themselves to themselves. You know, yes, they might be friendly to their neighbours and things in passing, but they're loners. They stay, you know, just then they sort their own stuff out. Whereas sociopaths have to dive into social circles and you know, fiddle and mess.
So I got it mixed up slightly. That's what it were then.
No, you're right though. There's that psychopaths can pretend, and a lot of them do. I think it sounds really bad for me saying this, but I think we're kind of giving psychopaths a really bad rap. However, so at worst they are cold, calculating serial killers. Like that is the be all and end all. And
Yeah.
most, if not all, serial killers have psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah.
Or sociopathic. But in other situations, psychopaths are very, very skilled at climbing their way up like a business ladder. And they
Yeah.
will throw someone under the bus to get there, showing no remorse whatsoever. They will find a way to get what they want, and that whether that's money, whether that's just fulfilling a desire to kill, just because they are a psychopath doesn't mean that they're going to like go out and commit a crime. It just means that they're almost sort of like a wolf in sheepskin.
They're way more liable to, because they don't have the basic right and wrong notions that we do. Things that we find so easy to understand and so easy to go along with, they just can't understand it. So it's one of those things where, yeah, they are going to find it way easier to do certain things. As you say, Lou, when it comes to business and things, they're going to have no problem forcing their way to the top because they don't care what happens to other people. If they throw someone under the bus to get their position, they get fired, lose the house, lose the family. They're not interested. They're not bothered because to them it's not a big deal. It's not an issue.
And it's also not exactly a bad thing that they're at the top of the chain that they want to be.
No, because they get stuff done.
Yeah,
That's it, yeah.
They won't show any remorse in making hard decisions and things. So
Yeah.
there is a place in society for psychopaths, 100%. It's just the psychopaths that we know of are all blasted along the headlines for killing a load of people.
Well, normal psychopaths aren't going to be blasted along headlines, are they? It don't make a good read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't care if somebody had like gotten a job promotion over somebody else because they'd thrown them under the bus over something.
No, you wouldn't see that
care.
as
You
everyday
think the
occurrence.
person that got thrown under the bus is an idiot for having stuff on them. And it's like,
Speaking
the
of that,
person that got the job deserved it because they didn't have any dirt on them,
kind of reminds me of a episode of House. There's a woman in there that's exactly like that.
I remember that one. And yeah, she gets cured, didn't she?
Yeah.
But she wasn't a psychopath. She was ill, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was ill, which gave her
affected.
this. Yeah, it made her like a psychopath. But she worked her way up in the job and everything. The husband, the lot.
Yeah. It's just obviously we don't really take a lot of stuff from House seriously.
No, but it just jogged my mind.
Yeah. There was another
Yeah.
one. I've forgotten what doctors think it was, but there was two kids, two brothers, and one of them was a psychopath, and he was so polite and nice to everyone and smiling and things like that. And then he was just weird, and every time he went into his brother's room, his brother's heart rate would just go off the charts, and it's just a fear response. And they were making out that like psychopaths are predators among us, really, which I think is tarring them with a pretty bad brush, to be fair. But again,
overall, yeah.
Well, in a way, they're the best of us and they're the worst. They can be, like you say, working their way up top at company, being cutthroat, getting things done. That could be in a good sense, or like you say, headlines of people going on serial murders and everything else.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm gonna say it's such a difficult subject and topic, like because like mainstream media labels everybody that does a bad thing as a psycho.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Everyone that does a bad thing is a psycho. But so there's probably a lot that they label them as a psychopath, and they're not even sociopaths or psychopaths. They've just made a bad decision or done something out of like passion.
Yeah. Or literally, that any of those like strong emotions, it's just that rapid response,
Yeah, and I think like for me as a parent, I would have no qualms and no remorse or guilt of taking someone's life that hurts my kid.
No, same here. Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
If anyone laid a finger, death. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be my first thing that I go to, and then I'd think, well, they haven't hurt him that much, or if they had hurt him that much, then yeah, they'd be buried. And I'd do 10 years. I'd happily do 10 years. You know what I mean?
It's one of those standard things. You do anything for your child, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter the
Yeah.
cost. It's just one of those. It's just one of those typical things. Yet more proof that we are not psychos.
Yeah.
That we are not psychopaths.
We're not, but we you touch our kids.
Okay, yeah, and and then I'll show you a psychopath.
We'll make you wish we were psychopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, like, but yeah.
But yeah, so Steve.
I kind of got a bit off topic. I spent well over 2 hours researching and kept bouncing from one thing to the other. And it's not quite with Psychopaths that I got into in the end. It's a little thing called stone tape. It's done, well, the main person that does it is, well, called T.C. Lethbridge. He was originally an archaeologist and turned into a parapsychologist. So his theory is that he speculates that ghosts and hauntings are analogues to tape recordings. So they leave a mental impression during emotional or traumatic events, which is projected in a form of energy, then recorded onto rocks or other items, and then they can be replayed under certain conditions.
Right. So it's almost like help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, your only hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So the idea behind it is that it's all environmental elements that store strong traces of human thoughts or emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, like obviously like residual pain and anguish and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
That is a hole, isn't it? You definitely dove into a hole there.
My little
just a
rabbit,
bit.
Steve.
I was gonna say I've been down them. I've been down those ones, but it's a very interesting theory, though. Genuinely, very interesting theory indeed. One that I have actually heard before. I've never heard it referred to by its name, if you will. As the stone tape, did you say?
Yeah, the stone tape. Don't get confused with a TV play called the Stone Tape. Either.
No, I've never heard the name.
That's something different. But if you wanted to look into it, there's a TV play called The Stone Tape, or this is just called Stone Tape.
Right, yeah, no, I've never heard the name, but I have heard the theory of that, like imprinting in a location. Yeah, it's a very interesting take for sure.
Yeah, he did a book in 1961 called Ghosts and Ghoul Popularize These Ideas. And that's what inspired the play. That's why. Don't get confused with them.
I was on mute. Sorry.
I wonder what going off then.
Yeah.
I just started getting messages and everyone went quiet.
Yeah.
I've been so good to make sure that did not happen to me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But yeah, no, it's a really cool theory. I'll stick a wiki link or something in the description. It definitely ties into the spooky wooky side of things. Parapsychologist. Oh,
definitely.
We need to get one of them on here.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah, definitely.
I don't know where to go from this.
Any questions about it? What's your thoughts about it?
Luke
or James, whoever.
James?
Me? Well, no, like I said, like I was saying before, I think it's an interesting theory. I think that, to be honest, in hauntings in general, no matter which way you sort of look at them, have always been like residual emotion.
Yeah, it's always locked to one place, normally inside a house or a room. So I can sort of see where that's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, like a location in general. I mean, obviously, often when you see and you've heard accounts, for instance, of people who, they talk about ghosts, they talk about how a ghost will, it walks across the room and then just walks straight through the wall. Once upon a time, there'll have been a door there.
Yeah.
That'll have been a doorway, and they're passing through the wall where it once would have been a doorway. And obviously, like you say, I think it definitely is like very much dependent on the location itself rather than even like a house, because obviously that a property, for instance, can be knocked down and rebuilt, but then people still tell tales of like the reoccurring hauntings from the previous property into this new property.
That's it.
And I think it's definitely based on that. But no, like I say, it's a very interesting theory.
It also plays back to some of the stuff Luke said in previous podcasts, where someone keeps doing the same thing and you might see that person doing that. That could be recorded within the stone of the floor. It's not just with stones. It could be done with anything.
Yeah, it could be
like
anything
streams,
at all. Yeah,
forests, mountains, anything with that. And
Yeah,
it'd just be like you replaying that recording and seeing that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I keep saying residual energy all the time. Because like I've always said, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. And
yes, I have indeed heard you say this. Yes,
Yeah.
on the obviously After Death episode. Yeah.
So it would make sense that it moves into something else, changes into something else, or stays where it is and is just replayed. That's the thing that the energy knew what to do. That's how it worked. It will carry on working like that and never disappear.
Yeah.
Because even when you use up energy, it turns into something else.
That's it.
Absolutely. I mean, I always do find it strange when when it comes to those kinds of when people retell tales of, like I was saying before, just it walks across the room then just goes through the doorway. There's certain hauntings that they're not exactly like byproducts of any. That's just going about day to day. Like it's not any byproduct of any real like agony or any real pain or suffering. It's just literally they're just wandering about.
They also explain why a lot of hauntings are. You like hear things being thrown about, that sort of stuff. It could have literally just been an argument between two people. They've picked something up and just thrown it at a wall, and then that's what you're hearing.
I still think my time loop theory is golden.
Oh no, I agree with you there. Don't just say this is the be an end all of it. It's just a nice little theory I strolled upon.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
But no, I'm going to say my time loop theory anyway. Is that time's overlapping, so we're actually looking into the past as much as they're looking into the future. So they might see us as ghosts and we see them as ghosts. And then where it's like, get out my house, we also say that when we're in that thing. So
I know exactly what you're saying.
They might be hearing a ghost who is us saying, get out my house, whereas we're hearing them as a ghost saying, get out my house.
Well, you're taught that time is linear. Time is not linear.
Time is man-made construct.
No.
Time for one doesn't exist. I was just about to say, time for one is not a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just your days, your weeks, your months, all that stuff. Your daylight savings. It's all man-made. None of it is of any consequence to anybody at all. And it is impossible to, like, the whole theory of, I know, slightly going off topic, but relevant, pointing to this right here, is obviously scientists, when they look so far in one direction of space and you see the Big Bang, you look so far in one direction and you're looking into the past, like look into it's mental. They look into the past, it can go so far that you can see the after effect of the Big Bang all these billions of years later. Yeah. And that right there is proof that, looking in a direction, that's got nothing to do with time. But yeah, it does in its own way. Because like we say, what is it really? So yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's just something that we've constructed to make sense of things.
Obviously,
a fox doesn't wake up and think, "Oh, it's Tuesday. I'm going to go and
order,
hunt tonight."
isn't it?
Yeah, it's like they wake up, they go and hunt. So the only reason that they look back into, so scientists when they look back into time is it's just light. It's the distance that light has travelled, and
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that
technically
light.
everything we see is the past.
Yeah, when you look up in the night sky and you see a star, we are so off topic.
Yeah.
But you see a star, that star could have gone. That star could have disappeared already.
This is why I made my point and then was like, leave it.
Yeah.
This is why I made the point that was on the point and then was like, leave it there, because it was to do with your time loop.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I do know what you're saying, definitely. You know, to sort of cap that off, Steve, it's definitely one way to look at something that's impossible to really, put a definition on. And it's nice to have those like different perspectives on something that you're almost, certainly us are so familiar with.
Okay, so
as is like supernatural. Sorry.
yeah,
go on,
okay,
Luke.
so welcome back to the Psychopath podcast. So Steve did some research. It was wrong research, but he did some research.
No, I did research, then just went off on a tangent and researched the wrong thing.
Imagine that. Wow. The time definitely isn't linear. It's repetitive. So I've got things like brain differences in psychopaths and sociopaths.
Yeah.
So a psychopath's brain isn't like other people's, as I said previously. They do have physical differences that make it hard for the person to identify with someone else's distress. So that prefrontal cortex and
Yes.
the lack of empathy from that. But these differences can even change bodily functions.
Really?
I'll give you an example. When we
Please
see
do.
blood or violence in a movie, our heart quickens, breathing quickens, and palms get sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already, mum's spaghetti.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas a
Love it.
psychopath
Continue.
has the opposite reaction. They get calmer.
Really?
Yeah, it helps them be fearless and engage in risky behavior.
Method in the madness.
They don't fear the consequences of their actions, which is the thing that I was talking about with Sutcliffe, is when he was about to get caught, he was
Yeah.
erratic.
Yes.
Whereas a psychopath doesn't
Yeah.
actually fear these consequences. They just don't want the consequences.
Yeah, it's kind of like a driving force, isn't it, really? Yeah. That's crazy, that.
Yeah. So, in layman's terms, sociopaths are hot-headed, whereas psychopaths are cold-hearted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lizard people, mate. It's official.
Yeah.
Am I also right in saying that psychopaths are born, but sociopaths are made? So psychopaths are born like that, but sociopaths sort of grow into being like that. That's why they still have some of them emotions.
Well, going off on the warrior gene for psychopaths,
Yep,
100%
Yeah.
that is genetic. That is a genetic thing that's passed down, and it carries on family to family to family. Mother to son most of the time. So I'm guessing it's a recessive gene, if I'm right in that one, but can pass from mother to daughter in certain circumstances. But a lot of psychopaths are male, especially like the serial killers as well. Whereas I don't know whether there is a gene for sociopathy, because I didn't actually research that much into sociopaths. It was just the differences.
Yeah.
But I imagine, given that theirs is weaker, it could be environmental. Maybe there's a mix. Maybe there's environmental and natural as well, like genetically.
I think when it comes to women, especially, I think 9 times out of 10 it tends to be a lot more circumstantial.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, a lot of female killers, for instance, whether they are officially psychopathic or not, a lot of them come from backgrounds of, abuse and, aggressive partners, this, that, and the other, and basically having like all the power stripped away from them. So they take that power back by committing acts of violence and murder, essentially. I can't remember the name of it now, but there was one really famous female serial killer who, specifically shanked up men. And that was a perfect example of that right there. Just, surroundings and the environment that you're exposed to.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of couples, a lot of sociopathic couples. Maybe one of them isn't and one is, and they're sort of like infatuated with them, that they to the point where they do commit like these horrendous crimes. So I mean, for an example, there's Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. They both killed kids between 63 and 65 in the Moors, known as the
Jesus.
Moors murders. And they still haven't said where the rest of the bodies were. I think they're both dead now.
Kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
they told police of 5, I think.
And how many were reported, like, officially?
I don't know that one, but there were a lot of missing ones. But yeah, Myra died of pneumonia in 2002.
Oh, so yeah. Well, I suppose with you saying, like, you say 60s.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's still sort of like they believe there's quite a lot of bodies buried in the moors that they just can't find, because obviously the moors are for people that aren't familiar with the country's layouts. The moors are what is it, unkept wild areas that are thick with
Yeah,
brush.
the moors are, basically just that, like open wildlands, if you will.
But it's not like flat with open brush. It's literally up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and
Hills,
you're talking
if
like
you
very
will,
hilly. Yeah, there's like 20 to 30 foot hills, sometimes even bigger than that, and it's just covered in these bushes, which are they are thick brush, and there's paths that you can walk and hike down and things like that. But when you go onto the actual moors and deviate away from the path, you're talking like 10 minutes to make 100 meters.
It's a vast open area.
Yeah, it's very low but vast.
Yeah, very easy to get lost, and people have gone missing and all sorts. Yeah,
it's but there's quite a few serial killer couples, and
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just reading about 2 women now that were doing it. Gwendolyn Graham and Catherine May Wood both worked in a care home. Started off by doing sex acts with each other. That was asphyxiation, and then it became more into killing people at the same time. So murdering people with Alzheimer's and then having sex after.
I know a lot of those people who looked after old people, like the care industry, did it to steal their money. I know a lot of them did it so that they could, like, there was a lady in America who did it. She had people basically stay there. She would then look after them, poison them, and then cash in their social security checks.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kept living off these numerous people, just killing them, cashing them in, killing them, cashing them in.
Yeah, it doesn't help when, like, you've got relatives that are going to go into a care home or whatever, and then all you hear is these stories about.
I know, it's horrendous, isn't
because
it?
there's a lot that work in the care industry, know, because it's easy pickings.
The world, absolutely. It's terrifying, like, how easy it is, like, with the vulnerable people around. I mean, I think our most infamous when it comes to, like, your couples, especially in the UK, were Fred and Rosemary West, weren't they?
Yeah, but they technically they were serial killers, but they weren't at the same time. So they killed those 2 girls, didn't they?
Well, they killed the kids, didn't they? The daughters.
Yeah.
Was
one of them? One of them wasn't the daughter, though, was it?
I could have sworn they had 3 to 4 children, and I'm sure about one of them might have got away with not being.
I might be confused
killed.
On the actual serial killers, though. I remember 2 girls. One was wearing a Man United top. That's what I remember.
Well, I know that after Fred got out of prison the first time, the couple together lured up to at least 8 women to their house, whereby he raped them and then they collectively killed them.
Okay, completely different people that I'm thinking of, but no, they are definitely serial killers. But this is the thing.
The first person I thought of were Harold Shipman, the GP from Hyde in Manchester.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
He killed 15 people. That was confirmed. But they reckon it was somewhere in the numbers of 215 and 260 people over a 23-year period.
Well,
I mean, that is outrageous.
There's one that really struck a chord with me, and I mean, I felt anger reading about this, and it cropped back up. So we're talking like a 3-year investigation, and it's only recently just gone back to the first person that they arrested.
Really?
Lucy Letby from Hereford.
Oh, right. Do tell.
She was working at the Countess of Chester Hospital. She's murdered, or alleged to, 5 baby boys and 3 baby girls while working at the neonatal unit. And the attempted murder of 5 boys and 5 girls between June 2015 and 2016. So it's mad. So basically, she got a job there, and she posted on Instagram, "Oh, I'm doing my favorite job and stuff." And within the year, there was something like 3 to 4 times as many deaths in the neonatal unit as on average. So whoever was the I can't remember what they're called now, the chief nurse. You know what I mean?
The matron.
Yeah, that's it. The chief nurse. Chief nurse sounds better. She basically shadily asked for an investigation, and this if she's found guilty, this absolutely shit stain on society, who needs to be hung, drawn, and quartered.
This is it. Some people may find it strong, but I've got to wonder with people like this why there's no death penalty.
Yeah. Well, I think death's too easy for them sort of people. I think they need to be tortured for the rest of their lives. Probably chop off a few limbs, so she can't use them.
I definitely know what you're saying, man. Straight up, I do. I do understand it. I think for the most part, it's a case of that person is just a straight up menace. They're a menace. You can't be. There's no point wasting resources on them. Just get rid.
No, I'd pay for it to be tortured. I wouldn't mind my taxpayers going towards that. For someone, if she's found guilty beyond not reasonable doubt, but beyond doubt she is guilty, 100% agree that if somebody is 100% guilty of doing a horrendous crime like this, should be fine. Should be fine to, do a bit of torture. Maybe it could be like a psychopath rehabilitation. You get a psychopath in to do the torture, so that they don't act upon wider society with it.
We're going down the Dexter.
Yeah. So, but this is it. As if I don't. I'm gonna get angry, but I don't get how somebody could. I mean, kill anyone, but kill infants who are helpless and can't do anything about it, can't even protect themselves. Surely these serial killers must get a little bit of enjoyment out of doing it. So
this is what I was saying before about the power.
Yeah.
Where it comes back into power, doesn't it? Because they're powerless, and she knows that she's in full control. She's a grown woman. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's got the power, and that's what she's feeding on.
Well, this is what I don't get. Surely
she's
you
a
try and go up
parasite.
against somebody that's a similar power level to you.
Well, not when she's weak, which she blatantly is weak beyond all comprehension.
Yeah.
So she's never going to be able to stand up to anybody. But I mean, the way I see it, 9 times out of 10 in these scenarios, when you go down into it, you read into these people, the backstories, where they've come from. They always prey upon something specific. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll get certain killers who only prey on men. You'll get ones that only prey on women, ones that only prey on children. They always have you know, almost within that modus operandi, yeah, there's always a specific goal. There's always a specific like target for them personally. And I think, you know, that's where they feel they get like the most power from that particular, you know, people, whatever age range or whatever they might be.
It's just mad. It's so mad, and I think it's just you know how me and Ryan were talking about like the gene pool and stuff like that in the last podcast at the end, and like we probably went off a little bit off topic and maybe offended a few people, but like surely I don't know whether psychopathy is an evolutionary trait or whether it's
a de-evolutionary trait.
Because I mean, we don't need it in society. Realistically, we don't need somebody who's cold-hearted and calculating, but we do at the same time. And I don't mean like serial killers. I mean like, let's say like
of course,
generals in the army or whatever. You need someone who's cold-hearted doing that job. Obviously, following the rules and following legislation and making sure everything is above board. But you need someone who can make tough decisions.
Especially when people's lives are at stake.
But they won't care about their lives. But that's fine, because that means that they can... I say that's fine. That could be like catastrophic and mean that a lot of people die, which wouldn't be good.
In their mind, it's fine.
But it's fine for like a hard decision that needs to be made. Like
a necessary sacrifice.
Exactly. And that sounds horrible and callous and cold from me.
Killing the few to save the many.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. See.
Yeah, that mindset.
I don't know whether I'd be able to make that decision. Like, depending on the situation, but I don't know whether I'd be able to make a decision like that.
Be hard.
You know,
it'd be difficult. Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that for me, I think it goes into connection on that point. You care far more about, and this is pretty much anybody. You care far more about something when you get involved in it. So you see so many things happen, you know, you see something happen on the news. There's been like say for America, you know, there's attacks all the time of the many like high school shootings that even we've heard of over here on the news. It's terrible. It's horrendous. You hear about it, you know, you see this kind of thing. And my mind's gone completely blank. My train of thought has completely derailed. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been so good as well. So good.
I'll take over.
Re-jog me.
I'll take over.
Re-jog me.
I think people that do the school shootings, I think that the media sort of portray them wrong. They say they're mentally unhinged. I don't think they're mentally unhinged. Some maybe, but I don't think they're all mentally unhinged. A lot of them can be terrorists. And terrorist doesn't just mean somebody in a turban that's blowing stuff up. Terrorist means somebody who creates terror and panic and death and fear in society for a political agenda. Like the KKK are a big example of terrorists. White supremacists are terrorists. You know, not all of them are terrorists, but the ones that carry out an act, like I know it was like 5 or 6 years ago, there was it wasn't a Black Lives Matter movement, it was another movement. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But they literally mowed down a lot of protesters. Now that is it can be mentally unhinged, yeah, but it's still a terroristic act, because you see it happen in Germany, and it might be from a Middle Eastern background of person that's done this. Why aren't they labelled as mentally unhinged? They're all terrorists. They all also might be mentally unhinged. Now, whether they're sociopaths or psychopaths is another question. I don't think they'll be psychopaths, because there's nothing methodical or calculating about mowing people down and then getting shot.
Well, I mean, it's all to do with the media instilling fear. That's what they do. That's what they're good for. That's what it comes down to. You know, they have to like continue to make sure that people live in fear so that they're easily controlled. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be that guy who's sounding super conspiracy theorist, but you know, we know all about it in this day and age. You know, you used to listen to the news and be like, "Oh, that's gospel truth." Yeah, nodding your head, right? Oh yeah, now I know the facts. No, you don't. in our day and age now, we know that major news corporations talk utter shite. And they don't report on things properly, and they don't give you the full picture, and they do deliberately twist things to feed their agenda.
Yeah, it's either to feed their agenda or to make themselves more money. They're the two
Exactly.
things they're after.
The original clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
100%.
We've gone from psychopaths to ghosts to psychopaths to serial killers to terrorists to media.
That's what a podcast's about, man. You're never going to fully stay on topic. It's not
I don't
a podcast.
know whether
I
might just change it up and we'll just sit and talk.
It's an informative video. Do you know what I mean? That's what a podcast's about. If you can't have a proper conversation, it's an informative video made for, health and safety policy in a fucking corporation somewhere.
Psychopaths you may be okay around, sociopaths probably not.
Yeah, moral of the story.
So keep a whistle handy. They're scared of high-pitched noises. But yeah, we've dropped some facts. We've dropped some sick bars,
That's how we do.
That's how we do. I think I think we've pulled enough blood from this stone. I think
absolutely.
I think we probably need to jump back into this and do a proper in-depth, at least high school style, reporting on it. But I think we've done good. I think I've enjoyed talking about it anyway. I got emotional.
Definitely.
That's the main thing.
That's what it's about. Getting passion.
Exactly. There it is. So no, thank you guys for joining again. James, once again, pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me.
And James has actually got some merch that's come out. I haven't received any because I haven't paid for any yet, but we're still waiting. But no, some good designs, some good logos. So if you head over to the Twitch link, which is in the description, James' stuff is there. We do have something exciting for next week when Ryan's on, so watch out for that one. Steve doesn't actually do anything except for this podcast, so Steve will tell you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and leave a like.
Thank you for saying it for me.
No, that was your cue.
You just said it.
Do you know what? I don't know why I pay these staff. You, James, you just want to take Steve's job.
Pay me.
Yeah, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed what you heard. Yeah, hit the bell icon to be notified for the next podcast. Check out links in the description. And yeah, comment below what you liked, what you disliked. If you want me to get rid of Steve, comment. I'll do it. And
he
take
will.
care.
He's a psychopath.